Welcome to the History Rhymes podcast.
Our story ends with Octavius essentially going to war with Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Octavius allied himself with a brilliant general, Marcus Agrippa. They win this naval battle at Actium, and Octavius comes back to Rome, and he becomes Augustus.
Right.
And he is the first emperor, and he rules for many, many years. And that begins this journey that Suetonius covers of the empire. So, so Julius Caesar
is that Augustus there?
That's Julius Caesar.
Oh, sorry.
So
there's too many sculptures.
You can always write like so. Julius Caesar, he always has a narrow face. He always has a receding hairline.
Right.
Yeah. So
there's a Caesar in all of us.
The craziest thing when now to go back to Trump, the craziest thing.
Let's rhyme it.
Yeah. Well, Trump, he is the anti-establishment.
Right.
And the optimates, the elites, don't like him, partially because he's part of them, and they feel a sense of betrayal. And he's coming and he's going, we're going to build it, we're going to cut this, we're going to do that. And he wants to kind of do things quickly, like Caesar did. Caesar did land reform, citizen extension, all this kind of stuff. And especially in this last year, Trump is coming. It's like, tariffs are this, and we're going to bomb Iran, and he has just rapidly done stuff. That's not how democracies work, if I could be so bold. Like, it's supposed to be slow. But if we go back,
like building a bridge.
Yes, and destroying it in 10 days.
Yeah.
And but if we go back, talk to me about this Julius Caesar assassination success, and how does it rhyme with the assassination attempt on Trump?
Oh, my. Well, that's a heavy question. I mean, I mean, let's say
there's half an inch difference between Julius Caesar and Trump.
Well, that's the thing is like the story we told of Julius dodging assassinations, with the Caesar.
One of them does. If he had done this,
the Julius Caesar, yeah.
If he had done,
and that's what Trump's win was. He did that. That's what he did. I mean, he stirred the pot. Let's say that much. He's a divisive guy, clearly, but only among the political elite, though. The people seem to love him.
Trump?
No,
Caesar. Yes.
So if we're looking at him, it's in the last episode I asked, like, well, what do the people think of all this?
Yeah.
They're not really so much in the narrative of these
They're
stories.
A force, right? They vote for consuls. They do stuff like that. But the reason Pompey had to flee Rome was he knew he didn't have the support of the people of Rome. So, like, by the time Caesar gets here, they're opening the gates.
Right.
Right? Because
they love him.
The guy who's been throwing golds, to them from Gaul for 8 years.
Right. So there's an element of that, I guess. There's a strong like for Trump, but also there's clearly a deeper divide these days.
Yeah.
But how does that align with or rhyme, I guess, with Trump's assassination attempt? Well, he's had a couple, hasn't he? To a degree. That was
but the one like this is the one,
that was the obvious one, but there were people that got caught trying to get in and stuff like that. I can't say that I really can say that it's the same because unless we're making the argument that this was a conspiracy theory where the elites planned to have that shooter on the roof.
I mean, who knows?
Are we getting into that kind of subject matter?
I think it's not that the elites planned it, but there's very suspicious things about that day where, like, the cops saw him, they were aware of him. There's all sorts of things. The local police weren't coordinating with the FBI. But you go more into, like, okay, so what if the assassination attempt had failed? Caesar would have been able to use that assassination attempt to propel his career probably into becoming emperor. Right, he would have used that to be like
that's
now,
certainly
which is essentially what, like, when the assassination attempt happened on Trump and he survived, I'm like, it's not even a contest anymore. And Biden actually steps out of the race a few weeks later because he had such a surge in poll numbers. So he's already this populist, he's already this powerful figure, and then he survives an assassination, especially when he's saying the elites are out to get me and blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that narrative was used and ringing true at the time. So, yeah, it is very similar to the assassination of Caesar. But I think that in this day and age, we kind of see these echoes of things, but just because of how fast media moves and how fast it's consumed, the assassination attempts are, I guess, less finite. They always there's always these massive actions that kind of come together. I'm sure these happen in political circles and official meetings and stuff like that back around Caesar's time. But there's a lot of the ability to do character assassination, and in a lot of ways that does sometimes work in today's politics.
I think
ain't no one out trying to stab somebody a bunch of times.
I think you only do that when you've tried everything else. So I think
Right.
the forces arrayed against Trump tried everything from character assassination, from Russiagate. And I'm not trying to defend him. I'm just saying he was a bull in a china shop.
Right.
And elites on all sides, from Mitt Romney on the Republicans, and he starts calling out rhinos, right? Republicans in name only.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's attacking Congress on all sides. Like, remember poor Paul Ryan and stuff? So that's happening. And so there's character assassinations. There's stuff being dug up from his past. Then we have, he crosses the Rubicon. And part of that is that weird 2020 election where COVID's happening and he's not really doing anything illegal, but he's not also conceding that he lost the election, Joe Biden. And, it's not the same thing.
To Joe Biden?
To Joe Biden. What did I say?
He's not conceding the election, Joe Biden.
To Joe Biden, yeah. And so it's much different than him going like, I'm now going. So I'm not going to go to war with America like Caesar did, because Trump is not a military figure. God help us, honestly, if he was. If he had a military background as well and had army that was like sections of the army that were loyal to him, that's a very dangerous thing.
Well, it's like the landscape of even war has changed so much since then too, right? And that's what I'm saying. It's like the repeating of itself or the rhyming just has taken on a very different form now. Back then, you could you could command an army and take it with you and try to take over something. You just can't do that kind of stuff anymore. Not without a lot of serious trouble.
Not in America, right? But this happens. There's coup d'etat all the time.
That's true in other countries.
This happens in Russia.
When did it happen in
Russia?
Russia?
If you look at like the Russian Revolution, where you
where
the guards themselves turned on the Tsar. But I think
in like now times, like right now, it's a lot. You hear of that a lot less often. Obviously, there's other countries where it does. Well, I guess we had that.
Yeah, in the developing world, you're going to have guys like it's literally whoever can control the army can overthrow the current power, and then
it's just with world powers like that. It's a different story now. It's a completely different battlefield now. They talk about how countries are fighting wars through proxy wars, but also through data now. But like I said, it's the way that things can be executed on a character assassination level by manipulating the media. These are things that can happen overnight as fast as a plane can drop a bomb. Like it's a crazy thing.
So that's interesting. So then you go, okay, so what's the modern version of this? And maybe Trump. He rhymes with Caesar in many ways, but maybe there's other characters. Like instead of controlling, you don't need to control the military. You need to control technology. So instead, the modern
minds.
What's that?
Minds. People.
Minds. Oh,
yes. Not minds.
And they call it a mine.
A mine.
Roast meat right off the bone. So we look at these tech lords like a Jeff Bezos, like an Elon Musk, like Mark Zuckerberg, who are controlling everything we see. Caesar controlled what they saw. They're controlling the narrative. And they can wield extremely powerful forces that are loyal only to them. Like CEOs, like some of them have like Amazon's making more than like a GDP of a small country, if not a large country.
It's a lot.
So then you go, okay, what happens when those guys actually decide to claim the power that they already kind of wield? Or are they just going to keep democracy propped up? Because here's the thing about Augustus. Augustus did not take the title of emperor. He called himself princeps. He was first among equals. And he still went to the Senate, and he was just a senator, and he would be consul once in a while, but he ran everything.
Right.
So to the Roman people, they voted in elections. They do, and there was so you wonder, I'm like, have we not had a democracy in America, possibly even in Canada,
Ever?
for decades? No, for decades.
Oh, I was going to say ever. I did.
And then what actually
have
is democracy?
We ever really had a democracy in reality?
We'd have to define what that is, because there's two categories of democracy. There's direct democracy. There's indirect democracy.
People in power, the founding fathers of the United States, we could talk about, I guess, Canadian stuff too, because we are from there, but obviously America's always at the forefront of our minds. But everybody seems to be kind of giving the people the impression that they're for them, and they're trying to create some form of government where they actually hold power, and they're even retitling themselves. Like, what did you say Caesar Augustus labeled himself?
Princeps.
Princeps. He's like, he's shifting the name, but really he's in charge, and he makes these appearances, and he puts on this little show, and like everyone's like, oh, we're under a new thing. We're represented
and
by.
He's getting stuff done.
Yeah, and that people like that, and that happens in this day and age too. But have we really just been living in a world where we're given the perception that we're being represented? I think a lot of people, even if you look at the Trump situation, there's a huge amount of people who feel disenfranchised when certain things happen, certain choices take place, like especially with the tariff things. I've been down to the States recently, and there's this kind of like among the people, obviously there are some people who are very for this stuff. There's some people who are very for this stuff even in Canada. But like there's this sense of like, this isn't my government, this isn't my prime minister, this isn't my president. And like, there's always people who don't feel represented by the leadership, even in people that like kind of tick a lot of boxes. There's always people who are like, I wouldn't have done that though. So I know that that's hard to do, or you can't please all the people all the time. But has there ever been an era in history that a perfect democracy has existed? Would you say that we have lived through it? Or are we just under the perception that things are pretty good and that's the definition we've lived under?
I think you'd have to define what a perfect democracy is. And I think one thing you need for a healthy democracy is an active citizen, like a reflective, educated citizen. And I don't think we necessarily have that anymore. You have to have people who are loyal to the concept of democracy, the concept of their country, their nation, more than they are to individual people.
So the less people participating in the democracy, the more likely it is that it's going to look less like a democracy.
Yeah, or maybe they're participating, but they're being absolutely mindlessly controlled, like Caesar was able to just work the Roman population.
Yeah.
And so I think, I think we do have functioning democracies. I think there's always been issues. The thing about democracy is it's messy. Mm-hmm. Right? Churchill said it's the worst form of government except for all the rest, right? Government is inherently messy. The reason people go like, why are things so crazy in the States? It's because they're free.
Right.
So they care about freedom. So it's going to be messy. So when ICE starts deporting people and being a bit aggressive in Minnesota, whether you agree with that or not, there's protesters fighting back because they actually are angry about certain things. When the Americans will go to the streets, they will actually, whereas a lot of democracies, Canada included, we call it peace, but we actually care about comfort more than almost anything.
It's true.
You push Canadians far enough, they will, like trucker convoy shows, like eventually they will do something, but it's more just like a nice, we're like, there's bouncy castles and stuff.
We have to,
but
at least they had trucks. They could bring whatever they
wanted.
They
had trucks and they honked, and like that was as aggressive.
Yeah, you push that. You have to push us pretty
but
far.
That took
for
like literally
happen.
locking them down for 2 years.
Yeah, and
forcing them to have vaccines and all this kind of stuff. And whether you agree with that or not, fine. But it shows that like it took a lot to push Canadians to that point. And it's always interesting So there's two types of democracy in that there's direct democracy and there's indirect democracy. Direct democracy is a mess. Like the Athenian Republic had a direct democracy where that's where every citizen is voting on every decision.
Right.
And you're rotating leaders constantly and all this kind of stuff. So like the 6,000 Athenian citizens would go in and they would vote. They would some of their greatest leaders died in exile because it was just like who can control the masses. So the founding fathers of America, and Themistocles being one of them. So the founding fathers of America realized you need a central government. You need a strong federal government. Especially George Washington recognized that because he was fighting the Revolutionary War with no currency, no centralized government. He was just barely holding things together. There'd be people like the farmers.
No standing army.
What's that?
No standing
army.
No
standing army. The guys don't have shoes. Congress can't tax. And so they're like, when they went to write the Constitution, like, we actually need a centralized army or centralized government. So you need that, and we need it to be indirect, where people are voting for people who will then go and make decisions. One of the things I don't really like is when you vote for someone and they make decisions that are completely opposite of what they said they were going to do. Mm-hmm. Bill Clinton liked to do this. George W. Bush did this. Like George W. Bush had no knowledge of foreign policy. Like when he was elected in 2000, he was all about like, jobs and we're just going to make, we're just going to do it. And then 9/11 happens and all of a sudden he's like, now I'm the foreign policy president. He barely can, and I hate to say it, he can barely find Iraq on a map at the time. And
he had done some kind of a backpacking trip through Europe
or the Middle East.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, this is like Texas. So like it's bad. Like when Trump, this term, this first year, like he's done a lot of things that he didn't necessarily talk about when he was running. And that's where I think it gets tricky, where if you're constantly in an election cycle, which the United States is, people are never actually governing. They're only just governing to get elected again. So it's hard to actually have them do the right thing. That's where you need unelected parts of your government. So in Canada, our upper house is the Canadian Senate. It's unelected. It's appointed by the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States, everyone's appointed by the Prime Minister. But
in Canada.
in the United States, I think it's important to have the Supreme Court appointed. Up until 1917, I think I mentioned this last time, up until 1917, the American Senate was voted by the state governments, right? So you could, so I think the beautiful thing about the American system and the Canadian system is its flexibility and its adaptability. So let's say finally Americans wake up and they go, our president is too powerful. Well, we have the ability, the amendment formula, to actually curtail his power.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to happen.